Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Assassination attempt on Donald Trump looms over the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Trump formally wins Republican presidential nomination as delegates rally around him. Trump surprises everyone with his vice president choice. Picks Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate. Biden says he made a mistake when he told supporters to put rival Donald Trump in a bullseye. Republicans accuse Biden of creating a climate that sparked the assassination attempt. Israel allows UN to bring more armored vehicles, protection gear for its humanitarian aid operations in the Gaza Strip. The first plenary session of the new European Parliament set to begin on Tuesday. EU members to decide upon Parliament's leadership and vote on who will run the European Commission for the next 5 years. The 4-day-long Republican convention opened in Milwaukee on Monday. The Republican Party formally nominated former President Donald Trump as the GOP standard-bearer for the November 5th general election on day one. Now, GOP delegates crowned Trump as the presidential nominee for a third time in a roll call vote as the Republican Party convention kicked off its 4-day run in Milwaukee in the battleground state of Wisconsin.
Come to order.
Monday's nomination procedure was a formality as Trump had already been the presumptive presidential nominee since March when his delegate haul reached 1,215, a majority of the total 2,429 delegates. Donald Trump has officially named Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate in the U.S. presidential election at the start of the party's national convention in Milwaukee. The news, first announced on Trump's Truth social media website, comes 2 days after Trump survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania campaign rally. Vance was named Trump's running mate hours after the former president secured a major legal victory when a federal judge dismissed one of Trump's criminal prosecutions. Vance was a one-time harsh critic, but later became one of Trump's most loyal supporters in Congress. Trump is due to formally accept the party's nomination in a part-time speech on Thursday and will challenge Democratic President Joe Biden in the November 5th election. All right, DD India's Nick Harper joins us from Washington. Nick, good morning. Now, once a harsh critic, but later one of Trump's most loyal supporters in Congress, for us, chronicle his journey to prominence.
Yeah, it has been an incredible rise for J.D. Vance. Bear in mind, he is only 39 years old and he's only held political office for 2 years. He is a first-term senator of Ohio, and as you mentioned, he was a harsh critic of Donald Trump just a few years ago. And yet what we've seen during the past 6 or 7 years is this transformation from someone who once referred to Donald Trump as Hitler to now being his running mate for November's election. J.D. Vance wrote a best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, that then got turned into a Hollywood film, and that detailed his childhood and upbringing in a very poor part of Ohio when he was much younger. Now, Donald Trump, I think, has chosen him for a number of reasons. That youth, that energy, that vitality clearly appeals to him, as does the loyalty that J.D. Vance has shown him in recent years, very much embracing Donald Trump's ideas, his policies, his MAGA values. And on top of that, there is that opportunity for J.D. Vance to speak personally to the working class voters across America, the type of people that Donald Trump is very much appealing to, many of them already part of his loyal base. But yes, it has been an incredible transformation for J.D. Vance. He has elevated himself now to the top of the political elite, and doing that all at just the age of 39.
All right, Nick. Now, J.D. Vance is the first millennial to be part of a major party ticket. In fact, he joins at a time when there are significant and prominent worries about the advanced age of America's political leaders. How far will it strengthen Republican prospects in the presidential race?
Yeah, it's funny that he has chosen someone as young as he is, because there were other potential picks that were shortlisted who were certainly much older, but Donald Trump choosing someone who has youth on his side is perhaps looking to appeal to that younger generation. Age has been such an issue in this presidential election so far. Donald Trump is 78, Joe Biden is 81, and of course we know in just recent weeks, off the back of that disastrous debate performance for Joe Biden 2.5 weeks ago, there has been this intense scrutiny and focus on the president about whether he's simply too old to seek re-election. But here we have Donald Trump very clearly choosing someone who is much younger than him, someone who he's essentially crowning as the next generation of Republicans, someone who Donald Trump hopes will undoubtedly take forward those Trumpian ideas and values right through into the next generation.
All right, Nick, it's a little too early to ask about how have people reacted to this announcement, but then I would want you to, pick more from the ground for us as to what would be the prospects for J.D. Vance in the near future, because, his wife is also Indian origin. How far will that strike a chord with the Indian Americans there, will it? To what extent, if so?
Well, that's right. I mean, Donald Trump here is choosing someone who is not just appealing to younger voters, but also to minority voters.
Yes.
We know that J.D. Vance's wife, her parents are Indian immigrants. She grew up here in the United States, but that certainly helps to appeal to Indian American voters out there, to people of color right across the board. Remember, that is a key demographic that Donald Trump certainly struggles to attract. People of color across the United States, minority groups certainly favor, by and large, Democrat voters. So there is that clear nod to looking to minority groups and hoping that by choosing J.D. Vance, by getting American voters to see that diversity at the top ranks of the Republican Party, I guess Donald Trump is hoping to be able to broaden the appeal that he has to voters out there and say, look, I have youth on my side now, and I also have diversity on my side.
All right, Nick, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details and analysis. US President Joe Biden has defended his language in the lead-up to the recent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. In an interview to US news channel, Biden admitted that his bullseye comment about Trump was a mistake. The US president said he meant Democrats needed to focus more on Trump, his policies, and the false statement he made during the presidential debate late last month.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing. Focus on his policies. Focus on the number of lies he told in the debate. There's a whole range of things that, look, I'm not the guy that said I want to be a dictator on day one. I'm not the guy that refused to accept the outcome of the election. I'm not the guy who said that wouldn't accept the outcome of this election automatically. You can't only love your country when you win. How do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I have not engaged in that rhetoric.
Asking about the Republicans' vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, Biden said that it's unsurprising that Trump would surround himself with people who agree completely with him.
It's not unusual. He's going to surround himself with people who agree completely with him. Have a voting record. I support him. Even though if you go back and listen to the things that J.D. Vance said about Trump.
The specific reference to Trump in a bullseye less than a week before has led some Republicans to accuse Biden of inciting the attack. A group of Republican lawmakers have accused U.S. President Joe Biden of inciting the assassination attempt against his presidential race competitor and predecessor Donald Trump. The Republicans have claimed that Biden's campaign rhetoric led to the attack against their leader. Jurors in New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez's bribery trial failed to reach a verdict in their first full day of deliberations on Monday. Now, the trial, initially expected to last 6 weeks, is now in the 10th week. He pleaded not guilty to 16 felony counts, including obstruction of justice, acting as a foreign agent, bribery, extortion, and honest services via fraud. Menendez is accused of using his political influence to benefit 2 foreign governments while helping 3 New Jersey businessmen in return for bribes that included stacks of cash, gold bars, mortgage payments, and a Mercedes-Benz convertible. Regardless of the jury's verdict, the case has likely ended the 3-term senator's political career. Menendez stepped down as the chair of the Senate's influential Foreign Relations Committee upon being charged in September, but has resisted calls from fellow Democrats to resign. He is running as an independent for re-election to his seat in November, but is considered a long shot. The European Union's newest lawmakers will be taking their seats in Parliament this week following the last European elections. It marks the start of a 5-year term for the divided Parliament. DD India correspondent Alex Kadia gets us more from Brussels.
Well, the European Parliament will be sitting for the first time since those recent elections. 720 members of the European Parliament taking their seats, new MEPs, of course, including a surge of far-right parties, 84 of them forming the third largest group in the European Parliament, including Marine Le Pen's far-right National Rally, the Brothers of Italy of Giorgia Meloni in Italy, as well as the Fidesz party in Hungary for Viktor Orban, those big grouping of far-right parties. But even further right of them is a smaller group, about 25 MEPs who are anti-support for Ukraine, anti-vaccination, anti-feminism, anti-Green Deal, anti-woke, and they will be making a lot of noise as well. What this will mean for the next 5 years is that this parliament will be one of the most confrontational, fractious, divided the European Union has seen for a long time. That will come up on issues like climate change, on sustainability, on environmental laws, on farming laws. It'll come up when it comes to support for Ukraine, when it comes to feminism issues, social issues. These will all be very contentious and very difficult issues for the European Parliament. But the first order of business, of course, is to elect a president of the European Parliament. That seems a done deal already. Roberta Metsola, the Maltese current president of the European Parliament, will stay on as the president of the European Parliament. We know the left group is putting a symbolic candidate to stand against her, but it seems all but a done deal. That will be step one. Then there will be debates about Ukraine, about climate change, about other major issues before, in the next couple of days, particularly on Thursday, the Parliament crucially votes on who will be the president in that building behind me, the European Commission. Of course, it is expected to be Ursula von der Leyen, but we could still see some surprises in the coming days. So here in Brussels, certainly all eyes on that European Parliament. Alex Kadye in Brussels reporting for DD India.
EU imposed sanctions on 5 Israeli individuals and 3 entities on Monday. The Council approved the sanctions under European Union's global human rights sanctions regime. It said that it was responsible for serious and systematic human rights abuses against Palestinians in the West Bank. The list included Zav9, a group which EU said had regularly blocked humanitarian aid trucks. The list also included Israeli politician Baruch Marzel, Ben-Zion Gopstein, founder of the Lahave organization, and Issachar Maneh, whom the EU described as the founder of an unauthorized outpost. Both Gopstein and Maneh have been sanctioned by the US. You're watching DD India News Hour. We are heading for a short break, but after the break, the 3-day 10th Pacific Island Leaders Meeting, Palm 10, to be held in Japan. Stay with us for the latest on Rwanda politics as Rwandan President Paul Kagame wins the presidential election with 99% of the vote. 1.7 trillion cubic feet natural gas reserve discovered in Bolivia's North La Paz, making it the biggest discovery since 2005. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to more international updates. The 10th Pacific Islands Leaders Meeting, Palm 10, is being held in Japan. Representatives from the 18 Pacific Islands Forum members and Japan are attending the three-day meeting. Climate change, fisheries and commitments to support development from the host nation will be among the Pacific Island nations' interests, along with concerns about release of treated wastewater from the disabled Fukushima nuclear plant. The summit is the premier caucus that will map out and define relations between the Pacific Island countries and Japan for the following three-year cycle. All right, Chris Gilbert joins us from Tokyo. Chris, good morning. Now, representatives from all the 14 Pacific Island nations are attending Palm 10 summit along with Australia and New Caledonia. Now, this year's summit will also be the first in-person dialogue since Palm 9 took place online in 2021 due to COVID restrictions. Let us get more from you as to what is the significance of Palm 10 and what all would be on the agenda. Though we've given a broad outline of what all will be taken up to our viewers, you spell out more details.
Yeah, so you mentioned the broad brushstrokes already, and one of them, the most important ones, is of course, since they last met, Japan has begun discharging treated nuclear wastewater into the Pacific. It began this in batches last August. And between these Palm meetings, there have been lots of talks between Japan and the PIF, the Pacific Island Forum, because representatives, including the Prime Minister, have often traveled to Fiji and other parts of the Pacific to try and get the Pacific Island Forum on board with this project, which many countries inside the PIF have been opposed to. Now, according to a draft declaration from Palm 10, it does seem as though they are collectively not welcoming, but encouraging Japan, to continue the transparency it's done with the nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, in terms of the non-effects, according to Japan, of any effects on the marine environment and human health. There are other, issues on the agenda. They're going to be looking at peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific, freedom and democracy, sustainable development. Climate change is an absolutely, huge issue for the Pacific Islands, which are, probably the most directly impacted, nation states in the world by climate change and rising sea levels, economic cooperation, and cybersecurity. So as always with these three-day summits, it's an enormous room here, is the competing influences of the US Western Bloc and the Chinese Bloc in the Indo-Pacific. Both, Japan and American allies and China are working with Pacific Islanders to try and gain influence over these nations, which, is a big reason behind, as you mentioned, that $380 million of aid, development aid, which Japan is looking to provide the PIF at the conclusion of this three-day summit.
All right, Chris, also, since its beginning in 1997, Palm has become Japan's leading forum for strengthening economic and diplomatic ties with the Pacific Islands. When we talk of Palm 10, then what is the scope for Japan to further strengthen ties in the strategic region?
Well, it's incredibly important for Japan to do so. These meetings, the Palm meetings, are effectively, you could almost look at it in a bilateral sense between the PIF and Japan. Japan has effectively been doing outreach since 1997 to the Pacific Bloc, but what has changed in that time is the security environment. It is, as I mentioned, the US Bloc, which, involves allies like Japan and Pacific Island Forum members, New Zealand and Australia, and effectively looking to shore up support and loyalty amongst Pacific states, as many reports are saying, quote, to keep China in check or to counter China's clout in the region. Australia and New Zealand had some raised hairs a couple of years ago when China signed a defense agreement with the Solomon Islands. They've signed police training agreements with countries like Kiribati and Vanuatu and Fiji. And so the important element here for Japan, for our security partners around the world, is to carve out their own elbow room of influence, mapping out or continuing to map out a network of support for these countries, but also reciprocal agreements on terms of environment, in terms of climate change, to deepen these relationships and leave less room for other large East Asian countries to fit in those ties as well.
All right, Chris, we'll leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. The Pakistan government has decided to ban the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party led by imprisoned former Prime Minister Imran Khan. The government has alleged that the party has been involved in activities deemed detrimental to the state. Information Minister Ataullah Tarar announced it on Monday, asserting that the federal government has collected enough evidence to justify the proposed ban. The government will also file a legal reference against Khan and former President Arif Alvi for treason charges under the country's constitution before the Supreme Court. Also, Imran Khan's aide, Zulfikar Bukhari, said the decision to ban Khan's political party and move the country's top court to press treason charges against him demonstrated that there is an undeclared martial law in Pakistan. Rwandan President Paul Kagame has won the country's presidential election vote with 99% of the vote. According to preliminary election results released late Monday evening, he had won 99% of the 79% of the ballots counted so far. 8 candidates had applied to run against Kagame, but only 2 were retained in the final list validated by the Electoral Commission. The others, including Kagame's most vocal critics, were barred for various reasons that included prior criminal convictions. The president, who has been in power in various roles since 1994, won by a similar margin in 2017. Bolivian President Luis Arce announced the discovery of a 1.7 trillion cubic feet natural gas reserve located in north of the country's administrative capital, La Paz. The reserve is expected to enhance the country's natural gas production capabilities, providing a potential boost to both domestic energy supply and export opportunities. This discovery could play a crucial role in bolstering Bolivia's energy sector and economy. The finding underscores Bolivia's potential as a key player in the regional energy market, given the country's existing infrastructure and experience in natural gas production and export. Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates reached an agreement for allowing for the resumption of travel between the two countries. The UAE stopped issuing visas to Nigerians in 2022 after Dubai's Emirates Airline suspended flights between the countries due to an inability to repatriate funds from Nigeria. Nigeria's central bank had since cleared a backlog of around $137 million in foreign exchange owed to international airlines. In eastern Sudan, approximately 50,000 people have sought refuge in Khartoum, with authorities expecting even more in the coming days. The United Nations said nearly 25 million people need aid. Famine is looming and almost 10 million people have fled their homes. War erupted in April last year between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces over integration of the forces in a transition to free elections. The United Nations said only one of Sudan's warring parties showed up for UN-led talks aimed at brokering possible local ceasefire to facilitate aid and protect civilians. A UN spokesperson in Geneva said the parties would negotiate via La Mamra instead of meeting face-to-face. Syrians in government-held areas headed to the polls on Monday to elect a new parliament that could extend the term of President Bashar al-Assad. The vote is the fourth in Syria since mass anti-government protests in 2011. Voters were electing 250 lawmakers to parliament, with 2/3 of seats reserved for members of Bashar al-Assad's party. Citizens outside Syria will not be given the opportunity to vote. Syria's 2024 parliamentary election excludes opposition-controlled areas and areas occupied by Kurdistan Workers' Party. The number of eligible voters hasn't been announced either, and the millions of diaspora Syrians are not qualified to vote for the legislators. Yemen's Houthis targeted 3 vessels, including an oil tanker, in the Red and Mediterranean seas with ballistic missiles and drones on Monday. The targeted vessels included MT Bentley 1, which was carrying vegetable oil from Russia to China, and oil tanker Chaos Lion. All-weather vessel was also targeted in the Mediterranean Sea. According to the spokesperson for the rebel group Yahya Sarria, the vessels were attacked because their owners used Israeli ports. Let's get to weather updates now. Over the weekend, series of wildfires erupted across Kern County, California, causing extensive damage. One of the most severe incidents began on Sunday night near Lost Hills, where a fast-moving fire scorched more than 2,800 acres. The blaze spread rapidly due to critical weather conditions, including dry lightning and an ongoing heat wave affecting the western Union states. The National Weather Service warned of an increased fire risk. Chinese authorities have placed the country's northern region on high alert for heavy rains, as the rainfall is expected to move northwards in the coming days towards the Sichuan Basin and the Huanghui region. Heavy rains have already battered the region, splurging the lakes and disrupting infrastructure of many parts of China. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Now, Italy's Mount Etna spewed red-hot lava and plumes of smoke rose skywards as one of the world's most active volcanoes erupted on Monday night. The lava originated from Etna's Voragine crater, situated above the Sicilian town of Catania. Mount Etna erupts frequently but rarely causes significant damage. Mount Etna is known to have the longest recorded eruptive history of any volcano, with a documentary history of eruptions dating back to 425 BC. In the US, Colorado confirms more outbreaks of the infection cases of H1N1 bird flu. Federal and state investigators in Colorado are investigating an outbreak of H5N1 bird flu on a poultry farm that has resulted in 4 confirmed human cases and a suspected case. The infections are the first reported cases in poultry workers in the US since 2022, commonly witnessed among the farm workers. Construction and engineering firms are bearing the brunt of Britain's shortage of workers, according to a survey that underscores the challenge for Prime Minister Keir Starmer to meet his plans to boost home building and infrastructure. The British Chamber of Commerce's quarterly recruitment survey showed 82% of construction and engineering businesses reported recruitment difficulties, up from 69% in the first 3 months of this year. A soldier was stabbed and wounded by a man armed with a knife at a railway station in Paris, days before the French capital hosts the Summer Olympic Games. France is on its highest state of alert. The soldier was deployed within Operation Sentinel. Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said on X that the assailant had been arrested and the soldier's wounds were not life-threatening. A 25-day-old newborn panda cub at Chimalong Safari Park returned to her mother's embrace after undergoing the 5th physical examination. After confirming the panda cub is in good health and well developed, Mengbao was returned to her mother, but authorities will monitor the cub closely for safety measures. Mengbao now weighs 940.6 grams. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, India's External Affairs Minister to embark on a 2-day official visit to Mauritius. Armed forces put up a brave fight against terrorists in Doordarshan region in Jammu and Kashmir. Encounter continues. Finance Ministry is all set to hold the traditional Halwa ceremony at North Block ahead of the presentation of Union Budget 2024.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for India, only on DD India from July the 18th at 4 p.m. IST, 10:30 a.m. GMT, Monday to Friday. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. Assassination attempt on Donald Trump looms over the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Trump formally wins Republican presidential nomination as delegates rally around him. Trump surprises everyone with his vice president choice. Picks Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his vice presidential running mate. Biden says he made a mistake when he told supporters to put rival Donald Trump in a bull's eye. Republicans accuse Biden of creating a climate that sparked the assassination attempt. Israel allows UN to bring more armored vehicles, protection gear for its humanitarian aid operations in the Gaza Strip. The first plenary session of the new European Parliament set to begin on Tuesday. EU members to decide upon Parliament's leadership and vote on who will run the European Commission for the next 5 years. External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, will undertake an official visit to Mauritius on 16th and 17th of July. The visit will mark one of the first bilateral engagements undertaken by him following his reappointment. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal arrived in Reggio Calabria to participate in the outreach session of the G7 Trade Ministers meeting hosted by Italy. During this visit, the Indian Commerce and Industry Minister will also engage in bilateral meetings with the trade ministers of G7 countries and other countries participating in the outreach session, reinforcing India's commitment to global trade and investment partnerships. Search operation in the forest area of North India's Doda district is underway by the security forces following credible intelligence about the presence of terrorists. The operation began early this morning with security personnel moving cautiously through the dense forest. As the forces neared the suspected hiding spot of the terrorists, they came under heavy fire. A brief but intense encounter ensued. In response to the incident, massive search operation is currently underway. Russian soldiers will now wear shoes made in western state of Bihar's Hajipur, giving a boost to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Make in India campaign. The shoes can withstand temperatures of minus 40 degrees Celsius. Last year, the company exported 1.5 million pairs worth crores. It is expected to increase by 50% this year. As per the company's official, their goods have also reached European markets. This shows India's hold is getting stronger in the foreign markets. India's financial capital Mumbai braces for monsoon season. Heavy rainfall that lashed the city on Monday led the Met Department to sound an orange alert in Mumbai for Tuesday as well. While the showers led to traffic snarls and waterlogging in Mumbai, the stock in 7 lakes supplying water to the city surpassed last year's mark in the highest one-day jump. And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. Ahead of the presentation of Union Budget 2024 on July 23rd, Finance Ministry is all set to hold the traditional Halwa ceremony at North Block. The tradition is part of the budget preparation and holds great significance. There is a lot of anticipation among key stakeholders around major policy changes in the upcoming budget. 16th edition of the India-Mongolia Joint Military Exercise, Nomadic Elephant, to conclude in Meghalaya on Tuesday. The 2-week training event aimed at enhancing interoperability between the two nations' armies in semi-conventional operations within semi-urban and mountainous terrains under UN mandate. At least 4 people were killed and several others were injured after a bus they were travelling in collided with a tractor and plunged into a ditch near the Mumbai Express Highway. According to officials, all the injured were admitted to a nearby hospital. The bus carrying devotees was en route from Kesar village in Dombivli to Pandharpur in Maharashtra when the accident took place. The 19th batch of 4,132 pilgrims left for Kashmir Valley in North India's Jammu and Kashmir to pay obeisance to the holy cave shrine of Amarnath. Over 300,000 pilgrims have visited the holy shrine so far. It is another first for India as it hosts the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee. Prior to that event, the 10-day event also plays host to World Heritage Young Professionals Forum from 14 to 23rd of July. 50 young professional minds from around the world, which include 20 from India, deliberated to find solutions for the world heritage in the 21st century. We get to more in this report.
India plays host to the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee in Delhi. As an integral part of it, including the young minds, India also hosts the World Heritage Young Professionals Forum 2024 under the theme of World Heritage in the 21st century.
Over the next week or so, they will engage in very fruitful and detailed discussions on aspects like sustainable management of heritage sites, climate change and its effect on heritage sites.
The 10-day forum has the right mix of deliberations, visits across World Heritage sites in the national capital and India.
I think this goes very well along with the Honorable Prime Minister's message of Vikas Bhi, Virasat Bhi, which means development along with preservation of our cultural heritage. And India is a cultural superpower.
The forum will enhance the expertise and capacities of young professionals in protecting, preserving and promoting our natural and cultural world heritage.
Nowadays we are facing challenges such as climate change, such as challenges affecting the site. So this is the field of expertise of those participants and what they are expecting to have their voices heard by the international community.
50 young professionals from around the world meet to gain in-depth knowledge of the global concepts of world heritage and sustainable development.
Climate change is real and it is now, and as young people we advocate for more policies, more climate finance to go behind the work and the promises that countries make.
I'm happy to discuss various issues, challenges and opportunity related to World Heritage Convention and World Heritage Management.
I look forward to learning about how India is actually addressing World Heritage sites and what their heritage management plans are.
This presents a great opportunity for the young professionals to familiarize themselves with the local Indian heritage. At the end of the forum, the young professionals will present their declaration to the 46th session of the World Heritage Committee. Anil Thomas, DD India, New Delhi.
The 10th edition of Vibrant India, India's largest houseware and home appliances trade fair, is slated to be held from 19th July to July 21st at Yashobhumi Dwarka in India's capital, Delhi. The fair will be an ideal platform for exploring new ideas and innovative products to further the Make in India initiative. India's Health Minister J.P. Nadda on Monday reviewed various initiatives taken up by the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. In his address, he underscored the critical need for empowering consumers with evidence-based information on food safety issues. India's Ministry of Law and Justice organized a motivational talk session in Delhi on the topic Happiness, a State of Human Values. Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal, also with noted author and motivational speaker Nanditesh Nilay, addressed the event. We're heading for a short break. You're watching DD India News Hour, but after the break, the Spanish men's football team arrived back to a roaring welcome on home soil after their Euro 2024 triumph. Olympic torch relay travels around Paris, visits some of the key landmarks. Indian star cricketer Virat Kohli wishes good luck to Olympic-bound contingent as they inch closer to the quadrennial showpiece starting July 26th.
As the world gears up for the biggest sporting extravaganza, Olympics 2024, we at DD India are all set to bring you reports, reactions and all the latest action from Ground Zero. Watch DD India's super exclusive show, Cheer for India, only on DD India from July the 18th at 4 p.m. IST, 10:30 a.m. GMT, Monday to Friday. Get ready to cheer for Indian athletes at the Paris Olympics 2024.
Welcome to Kumarakod, Kerala, God's own country.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News. Let's get you updates from the world of business. Wall Street closed higher as increasing expectations of a second Donald Trump presidency. The growing probability that the US Federal Reserve will begin cutting its key interest rate as soon as September also helped feed risk appetite. While all the three major US stock indices ended well below the session highs, the Dow Jones Industrial Average notched an all-time closing high and rose by 0.53%, while the Nasdaq 0.4%. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said on Monday the three U.S. inflation readings over the second quarter of this year add somewhat to the confidence that the pace of price increases is returning to the Fed's target in a sustainable fashion. Now, Powell also said at the event that he intended to serve out his full term as chair, which ends in early 2026, but declined to comment on whether he would remain as the chair if tapped by the next president. His remarks are likely his last until his press conference following the Fed's July 30th and 31st meeting. Consumer prices in the second quarter rose at an annualized pace of 2.1%, excluding the volatile food and energy components. And that index tends to run higher than the Fed's preferred personal consumption expenditures price index. Now, this index data for June will not be released until next week. Asian shares fell on Tuesday as investors pondered the prospects of a Trump victory and what that would mean for China. The Shanghai Composite Index fell 0.3%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng lost 1.4%, while the dollar climbed for a second day, even though dovish Fed comments fueled bets of more US rate cuts this year. MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan fell 0.5%. Japan returned from a public holiday, with the Nikkei index up by 0.4%. Oil prices edged lower on Tuesday on worries about a slowing Chinese economy, crimping demand, though a growing consensus that the US Federal Reserve will begin cutting its key interest rates as soon as September limited the decline. Brent futures fell 9 cents, while the US West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 13 cents. More than 100 companies, including Unilever, L'Occitane and Iberdrola, have called on governments to enact tougher policies to reach a UN goal on halting nature loss by the end of the decade. With more than 1 million species on the brink of extinction, the world agreed to a landmark deal in 2022 to protect biodiversity, including a pledge to protect 30% of the world's natural ecosystems. All right, let's turn focus to sports in DD India News Hour now. The Spanish men's football team arrived back on home soil on Monday after their Euro 2024 triumph and celebrated by parading through the streets of Madrid in an open-top bus. Luis de la Fuente's side was greeted by tens of thousands of cheering Spaniards as they made their way around the city to the Cibeles to present the trophy. Earlier on Sunday night, Spain defeated England 2-1 with substitute Mikel Oyarzabal grabbing an 86-minute winner after Nico Williams had opened the scoring just half the time. La Roja were convincing champions, winning all 7 of their matches on their way to lifting a record-setting 4th European title. Meanwhile, waving flags and dressed in Spain's red and yellow colours, tens of thousands of people greeted the new European champions in Cibeles Square after the open-top bus parade through Madrid. In Madrid's iconic Cibeles Square, fans gathered to celebrate Spain's record-setting 4th European Championship, with the players leading the crowd in victory chants from the stage. The president of the Colombian Football Federation and his son were arrested shortly after the Copa America final at Miami's Hard Rock Stadium on Monday. The two were accused of fighting security guards after the Copa America final that saw chaotic scenes outside the stadium. 71-year-old Ramon Jesuran Sr. and his 43-year-old son Ramon Jamil Jesuran were arrested shortly after midnight on Monday, stemming from a fight with at least 3 stadium workers who denied them access to the field after the game. According to jail records, they were charged with 3 counts of battery against a specified official or employee. France's all-time leading scorer, Olivier Giroud, has officially announced his retirement from international football. He had previously stated in May that the European Championship in Germany will be his last major tournament for France. However, it was formally confirmed on Monday that the former Arsenal and Chelsea striker would no longer play for his country. The 37-year-old conveyed the message via Instagram. The 37-year-old is France's top scorer on 57 goals in 143 appearances, surpassing Thierry Henry's previous record during France's journey to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. The Olympic torch relay travelled around Paris on Monday, visiting some of the key landmarks, including the Champs-Élysées, Arc de Triomphe, Mount Moulin Rouge and Roland Garros. The Olympic flame arrived in Paris on Sunday after almost 2 months of zigzagging through France and French overseas territories. The relay will culminate with the lighting of the cauldron in Paris during the opening ceremonies of the Paris Games. Paris Olympics 2024 are right on the edge and are set to be held from July 26 to August 11. And ahead of the upcoming Paris Olympics 2024, Indian star cricketer Virat Kohli has urged the nation to get behind its Olympic-bound contingent, asking the fans to join him in supporting the athletes as they inch closer to the podium with dogged determination in the quadrennial showpiece starting July 26th. In a video post on X, featuring some Paris-bound athletes like javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra and boxing hope Nishant Dev, Kohli said it is time for India to be recognized as a global sporting powerhouse.
India, Bharat, Hindustan. There was a time when the world could only think of India as a land of snake charmers and elephants. Over time, that has changed. Today we are known to the world as the largest democracy, a global tech hub. We're known for cricket, for Bollywood, for startup unicorns, and as the fastest growing economy in the world. So what is the next big thing for this great nation? Well, that'll be more gold, more silver, and more bronze. Our brothers and sisters are headed to Paris, hungry for medals. 1 billion of us will be watching them, nervous and excited, as our athletes set foot in the tracks and fields and courts and rings. Every neighborhood, every corner of India will hear a chorus of voices chanting, India, India, India. Join me in remembering their faces as they inch closer to the podium with the dogged determination of waving the Tiranga with pride.
All right, so India gears up for Olympics 2024. Disneyland Paris broke a world record using 1,500 drones and Mickey Mouse's image in the night sky. The Sky Shows made a Guinness World Record for the largest aerial display of a fictional character formed by drones, and it saw hundreds of drones create a giant tricolor Mickey Mouse over Sleeping Beauty Castle at the theme park resort. All right, so on those magical and beautiful visuals, we'll end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. You can download the respective QR codes on the screens now to download. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.